Most people are living in a mirage at this time. And a lot of the times I don't even realize it. And throughout my life, I've been dealing with people that are broke financially, whereas I've also dealt with people that are in the six-figure range, making $100,000 to $200,000 a year. And I've also met people that are millionaires. And what I've noticed about each different kind of person in these different brackets financially is that no matter who they are, most of them have everything that they need for the most part, but they do not know what it means to have themselves. And so what I want this message to be about today is to help you remember to not forget about yourself. What do I mean by this? Oftentimes, these people that are living in different brackets of financial status, they know different things about the world. The people that were broke financially, I don't like to say poor because that's like more of a mindset to me as being poor, kind of like what Dave Chappelle says. But the people that were broke financially knew things about the streets that a lot of the times the people that were making 100 to 200,000 a year, and these were country folk. They were fairly well off. They were living in the country and they seemingly had great lives on the outside. They lived in a nice home for the most part. It was a beautiful, beautiful place. They had pigs, they had gardens, they had dogs and cats, and it was just a very homey atmosphere. However, their relationships were not so tightly knit. I found out that I asked certain questions to certain other friends of these people that I was talking to at the time. I asked them questions about themselves that these people that have known each other for 20 plus years never asked them. So in a way, in just a conversation, I got to know these people better than they ever did in 20 years. So what exactly does that mean? It means that even the people that are living fairly well off are not sharing deep relationships with each other, and they live fairly shallowly. They know how to live their life. They know how to create wealth to some degree. They do know what they're doing to an extent, but they still are living in that mirage. They're living in the matrix. And so what I even noticed with the millionaire that I met, I had a short conversation, probably about a 20-minute conversation. But even with that 20-minute conversation, what I noticed is that though this person was fairly self-aware, when I looked into their eyes, I didn't see that spiritual fortitude. And it reminded me of a verse in the Bible where Jesus says, "It's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven." Now, why exactly does Jesus say a camel, and why through the eye of a needle? Because needles are, what are camels and what are needles used for? Camels are usually for trekking, they're animals for trekking through long term, through the sand dunes or whatever. They are basically transports. And the eye of a needle is designed to let yourself tie a knot when you're stitching or sewing something so that you have a place to go and to stay true to when you're actually creating the the blanket or the crocheting or maybe not crocheting because that's not exactly the same thing, but you guys see the point. And why is the camel passing through the eye of a needle easier for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven? It's because the camel would still want to be it still wants its animalistic things, whereas the rich man has quote unquote everything that he could ever want or more. The camel still has these basic needs, these basic understandings that it requires to live. But a lot of the times people don't even know what they want even when they're well off. And this is what I noticed about these people that were well off, is that they didn't even know what they wanted long term, legitimately. They've thought about certain things financially, and they've had certain things together for the most part as far as their basic finances, but as far as the spiritual and emotional connections to their relationships, there was little substance. And when I was working with people with disabilities, I remember that we would take them shopping once a week, and some of the people that we worked with were capable of going shopping with us, and other times they were not capable of going shopping with us. It just depended on their degree of cognitive ability. And we would go home and we would cook with them, or we would cook for them, again, depending on their level of cognitive ability. And I found that to be fairly fulfilling. And at the time, I thought that this was my purpose, is to help people with disabilities. But then as I started to work more and more in the industry, and I started to really think about the behaviors that we were propelling to these individuals. Because sometimes they would spend half of their money for that week on cigarettes or vape juice. And I thought to myself, now wait a second. This is taxpayer money, right? Like, this is taxpayer money. And even the industry that I was in, like, it's funded by the government. So now wait a second. Now, if we are, as taxpayers, giving this money to the government, and then the government is giving this money back to the people that are actually needing it, right? Like, because they actually do need it. They can't necessarily work all the time. Some of them are not able to. And yet, we're encouraging and enabling their addictions. And I thought to myself, is this morally right? Is this morally right for us to do, to encourage this kind of behavior? Because obviously the laws state that they can do as they please, basically. And as long as it's, in certain limits of their finances, that is, they can do what they'd like. But it's like, here's this person that is buying vape juice or cigarettes once a week, and half their earnings are there. And then the rest of the time they're buying frozen pizza to eat. It's like, is that really a good life for these individuals? Like, is that really what we should be striving for? Now, obviously they have the freedom of choice because they're individuals, but it's taxpayers' dollars, and it's people that are actually working, that are actually trying to do something, that are actually capable, where their hard work is going to these people that are basically just destroying themselves. So Are these people forgetting about themselves, and are we forgetting about ourselves by doing such a thing and by promoting these kinds of things? This was a deep philosophical question for me at the time, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not there anymore, is because I didn't find it to be morally righteous. And I found also that, again, they were living in the mirage, the matrix. But I also met different kinds of people that when I was in my early college years and early teen years, I would say as well, where the people were a bit more, again, broke financially. And they had certain kinds of behaviors where they would do almost anything to get a hit of a drug or a hit of cannabis or a flower of cannabis or whatever, and or alcohol. They would get alcohol, and I wouldn't participate in it until later, until my early 20s. But I noticed the behaviors and the patterns that these people had, and I thought, well, I don't really want to be like that. I don't know if I want to be like that either. Because look at what they're doing to themselves. And now, what's more prevalent, I would say, is the hedonistic landscape that is plaguing our society. It's all about the flesh nowadays. It's all about the flesh. They're all about the pleasures of the flesh. And a lot of the times, the women want you out here to act like clowns and chase them because it makes them feel good. It makes them feel powerful to get that ego boost. And then a lot of the times, the men are wanting the women to be like clowns when the women are actually decent women. They're actually decent women, and the men are taking them for granted and taking them for literal objects. Now, I want to explain both sides there because I do see the wrongs that men are doing, and I also see the wrongs that women are doing in these relationships. And it's almost as if these people are just so, as far as their attachment style goes, is insecure because we haven't been raised as a society to fulfill our God's purpose. We haven't been raised to want more and better for ourselves. You know, a lot of the times now in our society, it's like, oh, you want to better yourself? Oh, you think you're better than me? It's like, well, yeah. Like it's not like it's personal, but it is what it is. It's like, yeah, no, I don't really care to be a degenerate. Thank you. I don't really want to be a degenerate. Thank you. I actually have a plan. I actually want to fulfill my life. I actually want to create a legacy. I actually want to have a family. And I actually want to follow God. And I actually want to have standards for myself. And I actually want to set standards and boundaries in my relationships. And if that makes me a person that wants to be better than somebody else, that's a degenerate, that has no boundaries, that has no standards, that is willing to let anything go, well, then the truth is in the pudding. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm not here to bash or anything like that. I'm here to tell the truth. And a lot of the times the people cannot handle the truth. But you still don't want to forget about yourself. Because when you don't forget about yourself, you remember to treat yourself with respect. And when you treat yourself with respect, you're able to treat other people with respect. And that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day, is respect. Because respect is a form of love. And I've found that the best kind of relationships with people, the most everlasting and longevity relationships that I have, are the ones where we're simply cordial with one another. We're not too involved. We're not too attached. We're not too detached. We're not too disinvolved with the people around us. Wow, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's raining really hard outside. But anyway, we need the rain, so I'm glad it is raining. But nonetheless, these are the kinds of relationships that last. The ones where you're simply cordial with one another. You're not too much of one thing or not. You're fairly neutral. But sometimes neutrality comes with the most truth. And the stoicism comes with that. And so I want to encourage you guys, because that's what I can do, that's what I'm here to do, is to show you the door to a spiritual realm beyond the body, beyond the mind, beyond the heart, to a place of spiritual fortitude, beyond the illusion of time and space and beyond the mirage that so many different kinds of people around the world still live in. And so with that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful. And until next time, peace be with you.